Hey, what's up, guys? Robert Rule of 2 Review here, and today, could we possibly be looking at more Gears of War? So holy crap, I am freezing. It is snowing like the dickens outside right now, and my house is basically like, fuck you, I will not cooperate. It is not warm in here, so if it sounds like my teeth are chattering while I'm recording tonight, it's probably because they are, and I am freezing my nuts off. Anyway, that aside, hopefully tonight's news will excite you and warm you up as much as it's going to warm me up. It was just announced recently, a few hours ago, tonight on Monday, January 27th, that apparently Microsoft has now repurchased the rights to the Gears of War franchise. This is big news for a couple of reasons. First and foremost, we really didn't know what was happening with Gears of War, especially with the advent of the next generation and the brand new Xbox One. There's been lots of rumblings about whether or not Gears of War would even become a multi-platform franchise, given that it was always owned by Epic Games previously. It was kind of its own separate franchise in the same way that Halo was sort of owned by Bungie for a period until Microsoft purchased it, hence giving them the ability to give that property to 343 Studios or whoever else they would ever want to in the future. So Gears of War was kind of in the same boat, where it was Epic Games' baby, along with Cliff Bleszinski. He was kind of the mastermind behind it. Somebody who I love, by the way. Very polarizing figure. People in the industry and gamers and fans have a lot of opinions about him. I freaking love the guy. So I thought that it was great that he did something and brought Gears of War to the gaming industry, to the gaming space. And so it was owned by Epic Games, and we didn't really know what was happening. Its future was in doubt. We hadn't heard about it since Judgment early last year, which Gears of War Judgment, the prequel game to the Gears of War trilogy, which Judgment itself did not feature Marcus Phoenix or Dom. I can't remember Dom's other name, but Marcus or Dom. And so that was kind of an interesting, a little bit of a risk, and they changed up the formula just a little bit. I thought it was great. At the end of the day, the important factor here for me personally is that I'm a huge fan of Gears of War. I think the whole series is great. The first game stands as one of my most memorable experiences of the last, 10 some odd years, and the whole series, every single game was great. So I'm a huge fan, and so when Judgment came out, I loved it, and it made me really excited for what could be going forward. That was actually developed by People Can Fly. Excuse me. People Can Fly was another studio. I do believe it was published by Epic, or maybe it was published by Microsoft, but I know as far as its development, it was the first and only Gears game to not be developed by Epic Games and Cliff Bleszinski at the time before he left the studio. It was People Can Fly made Bulletstorm just a year before, which was a pretty average shooter that I actually still kind of liked quite a bit using their same engine. And so People Can Fly made Gears of War Judgment. It did okay. It reviewed pretty well. It sold okay, but nowhere near the numbers that the actual trilogy made. And so here we are now with the brand new, I do not want to say the brand new, with the news that Gears of War is going to be coming back. I mean, the fact that Microsoft has made a very public announcement of, we have now purchased Gears of War, we own it. Why would they do it and or make a big, a press release, kind of a news article about the item and not have a game or something for the franchise planned in the near future? Okay, so of course the big question with this news comes, what is it that will actually happen with Gears of War? We know that we just had the prequel game for the trilogy. They came out. It set up some pretty interesting lore and gave an idea of what happened still post Pendulum War, which is what eventually led to all the Locust infestation. After that, but still before the actual trilogy. So that's really, it was a really neat little piece of history. We got a very interesting kind of backstory to Baird, who was my favorite character from the original trilogy of games, and also Cole. Everyone loves Cole and the Cole Train and whoa, baby, all that good stuff. So it's really neat seeing them a little bit younger and a little bit older. Actually, we see them in two different periods in the Judgment game, and it introduced a few other characters to that 4-person team. And they were overall okay. They were neat additions. But the story that happened throughout Judgment was actually really cool and really well told. So it would be interesting to note if they are getting ready to plan something for Gears of War going forward, if it's going to be a continuation of that, if it's going to be a side story in and of itself, or if it's going to be some kind of sequel to Gears of War 3, to the Gears of War trilogy, or even something even beforehand. I saw an interview with some of the editors on IGN just a little bit ago, and they talked about maybe something during the Pendulum War, setting that stuff up. So that's a whole nother era of the Gears of War storyline that we could actually explore in these games. I'm going to get to my theories on that in a moment. Here's the first topic I want to touch on before I get into what this next game could be about. So as I mentioned, Gears of War Judgment was made by People Can Fly. They did a great bang-up job. That was a solid game in the series. This now, Gears of War is apparently being handed off to Black Tusk Studios. And Black Tusk Studios, for anyone who doesn't know, they were a newly formed, I should say newly renamed studio underneath Microsoft. They were renamed, I can't remember what the original team was named. I'll see if I can find it while I'm talking to you. That was renamed as Black Tusk in 2012. And when that happened, they announced that there was a brand new IP, some sort of new game, a new series that they were going to be releasing very soon. They released like a 30, 40 second kind of teaser trailer for it. It was a very big deal. It was this whole Black Tusk Studio is our new Microsoft Studios, a brand new production of game developers, very, veteran game developers in the industry of over 12 years and blah, blah, blah. And they're going to make the next great game for Microsoft for Xbox platforms. That was basically the way it was being sold. Overall, pretty exciting. They were doing something akin to like when Retro Studios came out and they were going to be handling a new series and we didn't know it was going to be Metroid, and through Twists of Fate it ended up being Metroid, and of course they knocked that out of the park. That's old news. So now something similar basically happening here with Black Tusk. It's pretty cool. If you go and research, I'll actually put a link below to the trailer that they released, the 30 or 40 second thing last year. It was pretty cool. It kind of shows some futuristic spy stuff going on, some guys swinging in through windows and a bunch of skyscrapers and some really cool effect shots. And we're seeing close-ups of moving parts, and it's not very comprehensive, but it's a cool 30 minutes of stuff happening. That's basically what you're seeing. And what was doubly interesting about that is they were spinning this new game. Excuse me again. They were spinning this new game, this new series, if you want to call it, as essentially the next Halo, as in they wanted it to be. It was not like it's part of the Halo series. It was actually completely unrelated, but it was going to be, they wanted it to make the kind of splash and impact, especially on the new generation for the Xbox One, that Halo had done previously, and become kind of that new thing that was exclusive to Microsoft, where we had Halo doing its thing for a while. Gears of War came and was very, very popular and lucrative for a few years, and it's obviously still kind of going, and then they wanted this to be the new thing by a brand new studio. So it was really cool to hear that it was something that was believed in very much by Microsoft, by the people at Black Tusk, who were very passionate about what they were doing, thinking that they could actually work with the studio to make something amazing. And it was really exciting to think, hey, brand new studio and a brand new IP in 2014, who does that anymore? I mean, that feels like a dying art. Yet here, for a gigantic corporation in a very AAA studio and AAA game, it was going to be that. Normally that stuff nowadays is kind of getting more reserved for the indie kind of stuff and the stuff that you're going to find on Steam service and things like that. But that's what they were doing here, and I was really, really excited. I thought that was going to be... I couldn't tell how I felt about the game itself, but again, it was just the idea that was exciting. So what was Black Tusk going to do, and what was this game going to be? That was very exciting. So now that we know that was happening, that was really exciting. The news comes out about Gears of War today, and it's also announced that Black Tusk Studios is going to be the studio making this new Gears of War game. What does this mean? Well, it means that... It seems to mean that potentially whatever this other new IP series was going to be has basically been shelved. I believe that there was a quote somewhere, and I cannot find it, so I'm not going to say it like it's fact, but I do believe that I read somewhere this a little bit ago that it's not going away. I think they made it very, very well known that the game is not going to be the next game that Black Tusk will be doing. I think it is. They are going to be focusing their efforts on Gears of War. But I think they were making sure to make the statement that this game won't necessarily go away. It's not disappearing. We're not replacing it. So Black Tusk is now going to move forward, apparently very specifically on Gears of War. That is both awesome and also kind of unfortunate. I feel like it would have been really nice. I guess in a perfect world, I mean, I'd like it if they were doing something like Naughty Dog or Retro Studios where they have two teams, working on one game and, one team working on one game and another working on another game. Why couldn't part of Black Tusk be working on the new Gears of War and the other part continuing to work on this other game? I mean, it's obviously, it exists. It's being created. It's who knows how much time and effort and money has been put into it already. They were probably going to show some of it at E3, and now everything is changing. And here we are with them moving forward with Gears of War. So sad as it is that we don't know what's really going to happen with this new game as of now, it was nice to hear that I guess it's not going away completely, whatever happens. So that was nice. But But even though that's unfortunate news, what's great is we know a studio that seems to be very much believed in by Microsoft, that is employing some really kick-ass veteran game developers, is now going to be making the next Gears of War for the Xbox One. It should be the first game to use on a console, I should say. Also, I learned that from the Same IGN interview. It should be the first game on a console to use the Unreal 4 engine. So that is super exciting. I really can't wait to see what that's going to turn out like. What Gears of War did last generation on the Xbox 360 alone was mind-blowing visually. I mean, they set a precedence for visuals that I didn't think we were going to be seeing in that generation. And it was only a year into that generation, 1 year into the Xbox 360's life cycle, and that game came out, and I was like, whoa. This is totally not what I expected. Unbelievable. And gaming just got better since then, and so did the Gears of War series. So that was really exciting. We know that they're going to be moving forward, Black Tusk, with this Gears of War game. Who knows about the other IP? So at the end of the day, even though some of it's kind of bittersweet, it's still pretty damn cool. Okay, so really quickly, I'll touch on my thoughts about what the game could and should be. As I was saying, we don't know what it's going to be. Not to mention, we also don't know when it's going to be coming out. I can't imagine it's going to be this year. I believe they're planning Halo 5 to be this year, so I'm sure they wouldn't put them up against each other. Not to mention, this is probably a recent development, so I'm thinking it's got to be a holiday 2015 game, which is fine. There's enough to play this year. That's okay. I'm just so excited to know that Gears of War is coming back, because I was worried. I thought that it's one of my favorite series, as I had said earlier in this video. And so after Judgment, it seemed like who knows what was going to happen, and we hadn't heard anything in a while. So this news today is, if you can't tell, I feel like I'm overly excited on this video today. I'm really excited about this news, so I'll try to calm it down and get to the meat of this before my next topic. What could this game be? I said I mentioned the theories that, of course, it could go in any direction. It could be this is so funny, a sequel to the prequel, which would be a sequel to Gears of War Judgment, a game still taking place before Gears of War 1. It could be a side story, its whole brand new thing, which would be pretty cool. I'm not as hip to the sequel to Judgment idea, but I do think its own kind of brand new story would be very neat, set in, I guess, whatever time frame they want to, or, alongside the events of the Gears of War trilogy with Marcus Phoenix. It could be a direct sequel to the trilogy, maybe Gears of War 4, heaven forbid we get that. Or it could be something that takes place even earlier, basically when the Locust infestation first started, and they could go over the whole genesis of everything that is the Gears of War story. That would be pretty neat. However, I'm going to say that even though it seems like it's, Gears of War 3 kind of puts a definitive stamp, like there really isn't much more to tell with the Locust story and with Phoenix and, some people who, may or may not survive. I feel like there's obviously something that they could do with the story, find a way to reignite some sort of conflict and make that happen for another Gears of War game. Even if it's not Gears of War 4, like the new generation of Gears of War still taking place after the completed events of the Gears of War trilogy. I think in a perfect world, just for me personally, you all might feel different, that's fine. But for me, I would actually most enjoy that. You'd think as a Star Wars superfan, I would love the idea of prequels, and I did. But I feel like since those prequels for Star Wars came out and the whole world just grabbed onto the concept, even though they make for some of the best stories in any respective thread that you're paying attention to, be it a book, comic, game, movie, whatever, I just feel like it's kind of got burned into the ground. And anymore, if I'm invested in a story, I'd rather just continue to go forward at this point. Like, I no longer want to go back in very many stories. I'm sick of going backwards. I don't feel like we're accomplishing a goal anymore. For the Star Wars films, it worked. It was brand new. It was fresh. It was a bold idea that George Lucas did that worked perfectly, in my opinion. And that was exciting because we already had reason to care about those characters and the journey Anakin was going to take. Movie-related stuff aside, same with any sort of gaming space like in Gears of War. Although there are really interesting stories to tell, and I certainly wouldn't be unhappy if that is what we were going to get, I would just prefer to just go forward. Just, you know what, guys? Just go fucking in a straight line, just for a little bit. Just make like another 2 or 3 games, and that's what I would prefer overall. And of course, then you get into the whole territory of really what story would they tell, and it would be up to the developers and the writers and the people creating that story to find a compelling setting and a compelling motivational reason for that story to keep going forward, or even some of those characters to return and keep going as well. I mean, there could always be something else they could do. As long as it feels plausible and not forced, I think that's all. That's probably what matters the most. The side story thing is also always interesting. I mean, if they just decide to go in a whole different route and take the story in a different direction, following different people, you almost can't go wrong with that. That's sort of opening up a world where you can do whatever you want creatively. It's probably the ideal scenario for these people now responsible for making a new game in a very storied and popular franchise that has, known for generating a lot of money and very popular amongst its fans. So I mean, I don't know. I guess what do you guys think? You know, if you're Gears of War fans, I recognize you might not all be, but if you are, what would you actually want? You know, I mean, it's kind of one of those scenarios where, like I said, there's no real wrong answer. Anything that they give us at this point, I'm the kind of guy who's like, you give me something more of what I love, just make it pretty good, and you have me, you have my attention, you have my money, I'm dedicated, I will support you. Thank you for giving me more of what I know I already love. It's hard to run things into the ground for me. Things don't start feeling burnt out and run into the ground for me personally in these, nerd media spaces until they become not good. So even though Judgment was the least best of the Gears games, like I said, I still liked it a lot. It was very good. So I have nothing but faith in the brand and the franchise as of now. I haven't been burned by it. So I believe this next game is going to be great, especially when you consider it's going to be coming out for the Xbox One, using that Unreal 4 engine, doing a bunch of really cool new things, probably showcasing what the Xbox One hardware is really going to be capable of in another year, 2 years or so. Just to be in that universe again, and I just love that gameplay. It's the perfect cover shooter gameplay. Yes, it built on the revolution that was Resident Evil 4. Resident Evil 4 was the real game changer, but I will say that Gears of War basically perfected that, brought that into the new generation at the time, circa 2006 when that game came out, and a lot of games have emulated that since. I mean, Gears of War was a game that put in place fundamentals for shooters and action games that we are still doing to this day. And anyone who knew me at that time will remember I made that very vocal, bold claim. So now I'm just being a little bit cocky for a minute. I said that exact thing when I played Gears of War and I was showing it to my friends and it was brand new. I was like, you guys, this is so amazing and so fresh and brand new. I promise you, this is almost as much as I can quote myself 10 years ago almost. I said, this is a game that will be creating the things that we are going to be doing in another 10 years. I said that. I swear to God, you guys. I was like, we will be in 10 years, the games we will be playing, we'll be able to look back on this game, Gears of War in 2006, and say that came about when Gears of War came out way back in the day. And so that was my little soapbox moment. Forgive me, guys, but it was really exciting when I remember that time, several years ago. It was a very fun time. I'm obviously very passionate about the Gears of War franchise. So anyway, I'm rambling about the topic. I'm very excited. Hooray for more Gears of War. I hope Black Tusk can knock it out of the park the way 343 did with Halo, because I was a big fan of Halo 4 too. So like I said, what do you guys think? Are you Gears of War fans? If so, where would you want the Gears of War franchise to go next? Okay, guys, one last thing. As if this already wasn't the most exciting news days for me, here we are with a whole brand new piece of news that is just further, just the cherry on top of this Sunday of awesomeness that is happening today. So apparently, per an article also on IGN, and this is a rumor and it could also be a mistake, so we can't forget this, and I'm taking it as such. However, it's still exciting, so I got to mention it and bring it up really quickly at the end of this video. Apparently, a listing on a German GameStop retail website has gone up for Beyond Good and Evil 2. Now, Beyond Good and Evil, the Ubisoft classic that came out in 2002, I think, maybe 2003, holy shit. That is one of my all-time favorite games. I have such a deep-seated, passionate love for that game. It is so amazing. I really hope that you guys have played it. It was a game that was known for reviewing extremely well. It won the best of E3, the E3 before it came out, when it was still in early stages. And it reviewed it fantastically well. Every human who played and touched that game loved it. Yet it didn't sell remarkably well. So it was a very weird thing. Within a few months, I remember it dropped from its full $50 to $20. And it was known for being that great game that sadly wasn't a huge hit. Kind of along the lines of, something like Psychonauts back in the day too, for that same generation. So Beyond Good and Evil, one of my all-time favorite games. I mean, I just can't even gush enough about it, so I'm going to try not to anymore. So Beyond Good and Evil 2, you're probably familiar with, and if you're not, there has been random back and forth information. There was a trailer that was released in 2008 and then never went anywhere after that. It's in development. It's not in development. It is. It isn't. Michel Ancel and all the people at Ubisoft responsible for this game have just talked about, we're not sure what's going on with it. And they were for years now, literally years, I think since 2009 or 10, they've been saying it's happening. Nothing to say now. They've never said it's canceled, nor have they said anything else concrete about it. They've basically confirmed it's a thing. It exists. It's being worked on. There was a really weird leaked gameplay footage video that you can find on YouTube that was about maybe 30 seconds or a minute, and a character that looked like Jade is running through these streets, and it was very interesting. It was hard to tell. It looked like a third-person Mirror's Edge, only using a Jade character model, so really, really weird, but interesting. So that's the thing, is Beyond Good and Evil 2 has never been this concrete thing, but it's like I dream about this probably almost as much as I dream about the next Metroid game. The difference is we know Metroid will be coming. Beyond Good and Evil 2 has been this nebulous thing where we think it's coming. We've been told to expect it at some point, but also told nothing else about it. So I'm going to end this here. I just wanted to bring this up. Remember, it's a humongous rumor. It's as obscure of a detailed news story as it could be. It's a listing with zero information on a German GameStop retail website. It's listed for the Xbox. That's interesting too. So who knows what that means? If this is real, who knows if that's confirming that there's any sort of, console preference being set. And not to mention if it's fake, it means we don't know where it could be. I mean, I would think it's going to come out on all platforms. Or honestly, this game will probably come out in years. So it's really going to only be next gen, Xbox One, PS4, Wii U. I don't expect it to come out on last gen, but if it did, then whatever. I just want this game to be coming, man. This made me so excited just to see a headline on a major gaming news site that said Beyond Good and Evil 2 anything. I got really excited. You got 2 paragraphs that say it went up, it existed, we don't know if it's real, probably fake, carry on with your day. That's essentially the gist of that article. But it got me excited enough, and I just kind of hope that if I brought it up here on a video, that maybe it's going to help, the gaming gods twist fate a little bit and finally make this game a reality. Come on, Michel Ancel, I love you. I've loved you since the 96 Rayman days. I know that you can finally make Beyond Good and Evil 2 happen. So anyway, that's my whole rant about Beyond Good and Evil, how much I love it and how much we want part 2. Alrighty guys, that's it for today. Make sure to subscribe to the channel Rule of 2 Review. Find us on Facebook, find us on Twitter at Rule of 2 Review. Like the page, like the video if you liked it, share the video, and of course share your comments and thoughts below. And thanks for tuning in as always. I'll catch you guys next time.